to the first webinar in our 2026 Women in Leadership Executive Speaker Series, with this one titled Rising Together, Women Empowering Women. I love this topic. I'm Dr. Susan Madsen, founding director of the Utah Women in Leadership Project, and I'm also a professor of leadership and extension at Utah State University. I'm the host and will be the panel moderator today. This event furthers the mission of the Utah Women in Leadership Project, which is to strengthen the impact of Utah girls, women and families, I should say. We serve Utah and its residents first by producing relevant, trustworthy, applicable research, second, creating and gathering valuable resources, and third, convening trainings and events like this that inform, inspire, and ignite growth and change for all Utahns. And our sponsors, of course, are the Utah Women in Leadership Project and Utah State University Extension. So I want to jump right in. And first, I'd like to introduce our panelists. And so, Melanie Jones, I'm going to introduce you first, but right after, I'm going to ask you the first question. So we can have a little break between our bios. And so I'm going to ask you, Melanie, and so I'm giving this a little bit in advance. What is one moment in your leadership journey when another woman's support fundamentally changed your trajectory? So be thinking about that. I'll give you that, and then we'll do Bettina's and so forth. So Melanie Jones is the Chief Executive Officer of the Women's Leadership Institute, Utah's premier organization dedicated to elevating women in leadership across business, politics, and community life. Appointed CEO in 2025, she brings nearly 3 decades of leadership experience spanning media and manufacturing and nonprofit sectors. Prior to Women's Leadership Institute, Melanie served as editor-in-chief of Utah Magazine, Utah Business Magazine, where she earned recognition for her thought leadership and storytelling. A frequent speaker and moderator, Melanie has engaged audiences at Silicon Slopes Summit, TEDx Salt Lake City, and other forums, interviewing leaders and shaping conversations on equity and innovation. She holds a degree in digital communication and media from BYU, Idaho, and certificates from Harvard Business Online School, NYU, Rolling Stone, and the University of British Columbia. Passionate about advancing women, she continues to champion systemic change statewide. So here's your question, Melanie. What is one moment of your leadership journey when another woman's support fundamentally changed your trajectory?
Thank you. First of all, thanks for having me here, Susan. Looking at the other panelists, I'm just honored to be part of this conversation. So thank you for having me. I can think of a great moment that's an example of this. So I was at the same company for multiple decades, and I think that when you do that, you have to do it very carefully because it's easy to get into a rut. It's easy to build a reputation and then believe what everybody says about you. Mm-hmm. And then you can also get stuck there and have some golden handcuffs. And that's the situation I found myself in. And I had worked with a couple of amazing women through TEDx Salt Lake City. I was a speaking coach there for 5 seasons. And doing that as a volunteer really expanded my network so that there were people in my circle outside of my immediate company. And that would become pivotal to every move that I would make after that in my career. So I'm experiencing some issues in this situation at this company where I had been at for a long time and asking myself, am I crazy? Is this me? Do I need to be doing something differently? And 2 of the women I met through TEDx Salt Lake City were Sarah Jones, who I know that you know, Susan, and then Dr. Chelsea Shields. And both of them, I called them at different moments and was like, am I crazy? I feel crazy right now. I'm not accomplishing what I used to be able to. I don't know if this is where I'm supposed to be anymore, but it was my home and my life, and my extended family was at this company. And Sarah Jones kind of took me by the shoulders and was like, this structure is not set up for your success. And she helped me recognize that. And in another instance in the same phase, Chelsea Shields gave me the advice when I was nervous about jumping to a new role. You need to remember who you are. I want you to think about previous successes you have had. And I want you to tell me with a straight face that there's a time that you failed at something. Like, when have you not killed it, Melanie? And that really helped me because I was feeling very
I love that.
insecure at that moment. And to borrow the confidence from somebody that I really respected, who had a clear, objective view of me, my skill set, what I brought to the table, and to help me see that when I couldn't see it myself.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Bettina Smith Edmondson serves on the Layton City Council, where she is recognized as a bridge builder and advocate for community engagement, youth development, and public service. A lifelong Layton resident, Bettina attended Adams Elementary, North Layton Junior High. You do have a long history in Layton, and North Ridge High before earning a bachelor's degree from the University of Utah and an MBA from Weber State University. Professionally, she has worked for more than 15 years in healthcare and public service and currently serves as a senior healthcare economics consultant with Optium, advising leaders on data-driven strategies to reduce costs and improve outcomes. Bettina has mentored youth for over 2 decades through civic and faith-based organizations, and she actively supports initiatives in education, public safety, and the arts. She values open communication and is committed to building a stronger, more connected community. I'm going to give you that same exact question. And one of the reasons I invited you, Bettina, is because you're so involved in A Bolder Way Forward, which really focuses on, even though you have some things that focus on men and women, you are in that space of really trying to ensure that more girls and women and their families, of course, thrive. So I would love to have you answer that same question.
Awesome. Thank you for again inviting us to be on this panel. I echo Melanie's comments and just happy to be here today. So I'll jump right in because I know we don't have a ton of time. I would say that it's not even just two individual women, because my first influential woman, and I'm sure many of you can agree with me, has to be my mother. And that sometimes sounds cliche, right? Everybody's always thanking mom. You have the Super Bowl winners and they're always saying hi to mom. But moms shape pretty much everything, right? There are some folks who aren't fortunate to have a mom who has shaped them, but I am. And so she was my role model from the beginning. She grew up in Mississippi in the South in the 50s and endured quite a few things, had to witness a lot of things, and still was able to overcome and shine through, teaching me and my brothers that, God first, family, education, those three things you really can't go wrong. You can't lose out. And so she and my dad were here in Utah. That's how I'm from here, born and raised here. But my mom was an engineer by trade. And so I always saw high excelling women in my family, as well as just people in general. And so for me, it was never an option to not do your best, to not shoot for the stars, to not try your best. And so she's always been kind of like that guiding force. She's still here today. I'm thankful for that because a lot of people are leaving here. And so I'm grateful for her and her support. But moving forward, fast forward to adulthood, my professional career and my life, I joined an organization when I was in my 20s. I was already a graduate from the University of Utah, and I joined a sorority. And I know that's crazy, right? Because people think, why are you in a sorority? You're in college still? No, but my sorority is Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and it's a member of the Divine Nine. We are an historically African American sorority that both welcomes and accepts all, but focusing on, the Black community. We did celebrate our Founders Day on yesterday, January 13th, 1913, and our first public act of service was to march in the Women's Suffrage March for voter registration, and we were not even able to vote even after that took place. So that sorority is near and dear to my heart, and I bring that up because when I made the crazy decision to run for office, and I can tell you that story at another time. It was a crazy decision. But the first people I called, the first people I reached out to were members of my sorority, not because they were my girlfriends, but because many of them had run for office and or were in office. Representative Sandra Hollins, she's a member of my sorority, and I reached out to her, and she is one of those folks who can give you the straight, right? She's going to tell you what's going on, what you need to do. She helped me to prepare myself mentally for doing this type of work, even to the point of how to protect yourself, how to protect your family. Family is very important to me. And in public office, it's, things can get crazy, things can go left very quickly, social media and all of the things. And so being able to lean on people who,
I love
one,
that.
have your best interest at heart and are going to give you a straight answer. Growing up in Utah, there's one thing that I always experienced, and I call it the Utah way. Don't get mad, but we do have a little bit of passive aggressiveness in the state. And I've never been that, right? I've just always been a straight
Yeah,
shooter. And I love that. I love when you feel confident and comfortable enough to tell someone the truth and let them know to their face, I love you. And I love you enough to tell you the truth about this.
I love
And now
it.
let's go to lunch after, right?
I
It
love
doesn't
it.
mean that I don't like you. It doesn't mean I hate your idea, but you want people in your corner who can give you the honest truth, and they can comfort you. They can pick you up when you fall. They can encourage
Yeah.
you when you're at your best and comfort you when you're at your worst. And you know that that's a genuine person. And so to
Thank
me,
you.
that's the most
I
important
love it.
thing.
I love it. Great examples. I love that you brought up your mom too. And that's so true. There's so much there. Connie Sokol is a national speaker, best-selling author, TV contributor, professional speaker, trainer, and a mother of seven. And she is a regular contributor on KSL News show and a guest contributor for 18 years on the top rated Studio 5 with Brooke Walker. I was on that. I used to be on that more often. I love that show. She is the founder of Born to Lead, a leadership training to specifically to empower young adults to speak with confidence and purpose, professionally and personally. And she has hosted popular podcasts, written 18 books, is a former column contributor to Deseret News, the vice president of the National Speakers Association, and more. And she currently provides engaging leadership trainings at universities and professional conferences. And through women's leadership retreats she's hosted over the years, she has taught so many women how to find purpose and fulfillment as individual or influential speakers and writers and media presence. And I've been on your podcast, on one of your podcasts. Connie earned a Bachelor's of Science degree from Brigham Young University. Connie focuses a lot on, and I really wanted Connie in this space because she is really working on young adults and young women, which we need in the pipeline to move forward. So, Connie, I'd love to have you answer that question as well.
Oh, you are so great. And again, Melanie and Bettina, I just love what you were saying. I'm taking notes. Two women, I just want to do it quickly because I know you want to get to a lot of questions, but
Yep.
really so many women have helped me, but two in particular of touch points, you know, at that fork in the road. So I was doing a lot of writing and I had this opportunity to be a part of an anthology, which means that you're with other authors and then you all create a book. But what this gal did, and she was extremely successful, like Amazon blockbuster. She came to me and said, hey, I've got this new idea. I want to have 12 authors in a year and we each write a book a month and that will make the algorithms go crazy. And I was like, this is incredible because I was usually doing self-development, but I was going into clean romance and I was like, this is an incredible opportunity. I just jump right into this. It's done for me. And I could not get settled. I don't know if you've had that experience, but you're like, it looks so good on paper. Why is this not working? And I'm trying to make it fit. And I reached out to a friend of mine, Jennifer Nielsen. I don't know if you know who she is, but she's a middle grade author, best-selling author, New York Times best-selling author, out of I think like 9 times over. And I emailed her and I said, Jen, what do I do? I have to make this decision. I don't understand what's going on. And she gave me advice that I've used ever since. She said, Connie, I want you to look at your writing career as a mountain and ask yourself every time something comes to you, will this keep me climbing to the top of that mountain or will it make me circle the base? And I went, ah, it was a great opportunity, but was it really where I was feeling I needed to play? No, really, I needed to be with women and helping them develop. So I said no
I
to
love
that.
that.
And then shortly after, well, a couple of years after, I was like, where do you want me to go then? Where, and kind of asking and praying. I'm a God-fearing woman too. And I was like, where am I supposed to play? And then did a variety of things. And then here comes COVID. And I had connected with this gal, Michelle Villalobos, and she does retreats. She does business retreats. So I got with her and talked with her about doing retreats. Well, I felt like I should start a retreat. This was September of COVID, people. Why would you start an in-person retreat to register in January when it's September of COVID? It just didn't make any sense. And yet I couldn't get over the feeling of this is the right thing to do. And so I did. And do you know, we filled that retreat 2 months ahead. And that started that whole journey of doing these retreats into a year-long program and blah, 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 which I've since closed since I'm now working with the young adults. But the reason why I share that is because in those moments where it doesn't make any sense, and like Melanie was saying, I have those moments we feel unsure, that it's a good woman who's been down the road and can turn and say, what's your gut telling you? And really what we really need is just someone to reassure us that we know our gut and that we can follow that and that it's not going to be this horrific experience. We're going to make it through. So those were two pivotal moments for me.
Thank you so much, Connie. Thanks to all of you. Yes, I have a lot of questions, so let's dive in and move. And I want two of you. I want Connie. I'll actually have you continue and just take a minute, and then I'll go to Melanie on this. And I'm not going to give everybody all the questions, so we'll move through some of those to give everybody a chance to hear different perspectives. So you're an empowered woman, Connie. Just take a minute more. You started talking about what you're doing in the space of women, and then you have just started in that young women college age kind of space. And I don't know, I can't remember if you're doing anything in high school, but what an important piece. So just share a minute what you're doing there. And then Melanie, I'd love to come over and have you talk a bit more about the Women's Leadership Institute and some of what you're doing there. Connie?
You bet. When I was going along doing those retreats, it was great, successful. And then right in the middle of that, I got this feeling thought of it's time to do something different. I was like, no, no, no. And then I was kind of in a little bit of a waiting space of what do I need to do next? And then it was three different people, two of them women, who I talked with, got the breadcrumbs of I need to do the same thing I was doing, but do it for young adult women. But now it wasn't the Connie Sokol thing. Now it was about being a guide and a gatherer. So we beta tested it at BYU with a team at XDM, the Experiential Design Management Department. And we said, let's put on an event. So we decided to do it. And it was with these girls and it was go. So we did an overnight retreat in January, which is the best way women work is we have a retreat. And then we planned the event and we did it at BYU. And we didn't know how this was going to play, but we said, we're going to teach them how to speak in a day and base it on kind of the speaker in a day thing. We trained those girls, we guided and mentored those girls, social media, marketing, speaker handling, all the things. And we did that event in 3.5 weeks. It took that long to get approval. So we did 3.5 weeks. And I'm telling you what, the day that event dawned, it was a blizzard. And we're like, no one's going to get out of bed for this on campus. And we had 100 girls there and it was incredible. And that was a springboard that kind of now we have events at Utah State University.
Yeah,
BYU,
you did
and
one
UVU.
at Utah State University with the young,
With
the younger. I'm sure there's some older people that come, but really that college age,
the young at
traditionally
heart.
college age. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And we
Thank
want
you.
these young adults to feel empowered to be able to speak articulately and distinctly wherever they are personally and professionally.
Well, I'll tell you, I used to teach junior high public speaking, and speaking and having confidence to do that is a critical piece of feeling confident, but also being a leader as well. Melanie, over to you. Tell us about what you're doing. You've been maybe, 6 months with the Women's Leadership Institute? Oh, you need to unmute.
Sorry. Yes, I've been on board 7 months now.
Okay.
And what a beautiful space to enter, honestly, coming from corporate, coming from media, and now being able to focus all of my attention on my sisters in Utah. It's been amazing. So Women's Leadership Institute, we have a few things that we focus on. One is preparing companies to recognize talent that they already have within their ranks. And so this is, do you have the right policies in place? There seem to be some people missing from your boardroom table. Have you considered everyone who is prepared for that? Do you have a pay gap that's gender-based that you hadn't noticed before? Things like this. So we work with companies on something called the Elevate Her Challenge that has a few pillars that include those things like pay gap, representation in leadership, mentorship programs, family-friendly policies, all those things that we know make a much better work environment, not just for women, but for everyone, because women-friendly policies are family-friendly policies. So that's one thing we do. Another thing we do is we prepare women to rise. So we have cohort-based training that follows women through a pipeline. If you don't have direct reports yet, then we have the Rising Leader series. If you do have direct reports, we have the Career Development series. And our instructors for the Career Development series, which by the way, launches tomorrow in Salt Lake City and next week in Utah County. We're so excited for that. And our instructors are people like Gail Miller talking about mental health. We have a majority female Supreme Court in Utah, and those three ladies are going to teach decision making. So our instructors are really amazing, the best of the best. It's like a master class / workshop / network building exercise, because we also know that women rise through connections. That old adage that your network is your net worth is so true, and people don't pay enough attention to it. And so that's why our training is cohort based. So you build relationships with the women who are in the cohort with you. So that's about 70 women in the cohort with you. And then lastly, there are women who are ready to rise that just haven't been given the opportunity, and we help them. We refer them. People call us and say, I need a CMO. My boardroom is all men. I would like a woman. Who do you know? And we provide those references. Last year, I helped populate the podiums of 8 different conferences, because we also know that when women have visibility in the community and they build a community-wide reputation, they're more likely to be on the short list when people are considering executive positions. And so I've been putting women on podiums at different conferences, everything from Mind the Gap Fest to there was a marketing AI conference, to a healthcare conference that was up at the University of Utah. People are calling me and saying, who do you know? And I know
I love that.
women.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. Bettina, I wanted to ask you specifically, the theme of this is rising together. So what specifically to you, what does that look like in practice? Not just in theory, but in your day-to-day leadership. What does that look like to you?
Yeah, so I think rising together is something that, I mean, it's a good concept, right? Like you mentioned, but how do we actually do that? And I think the way that we rise together starts with a mindset. I think that, as Melanie was just mentioning, all of these women who are amazing, who are doing great things, but then you have other folks who are looking for women. They don't know where to go, which seems crazy, right? Because we're half the population. But the way that you actually rise together is by, instead of recreating things and recreating processes, recreating organizations, you name it, is really kind of what Boulder Way Forward does, right? Is that resource gathering and seeing what's already being done, where you are, who's doing what, and really kind of bringing those pieces together. I didn't know. Technically, I would say what networking was all about probably 10 years ago, until someone said, "Oh, you're a really good networker." And I'm like, "What do you mean I'm a networker? What does that mean?" And when they started talking to me about, we go to different places and I'm always connecting someone with someone else. And I'm like, "Oh, have you met this person? This is what they do. That is what they do." Those are ways that we can literally rise together. The more people that are in your scope, that are in your purview, then the broader your pool becomes. So I'm thinking about, Melanie, what you just said. People are calling you because you're in charge of Utah Women's Leadership Institute, right? And so they think, oh, Melanie knows somebody, but there are also people maybe right under their noses that they aren't thinking about. And so when you broaden your network, you broaden your view, you open up your eyes to see who's around you and who's not around you, then you can start rising together because you're thinking outside of the box and you're not just going to the expected place or the normal place. And so it's my desire that our normal places become more prevalent. They become more visible to us, that we're not just going to the regular spot, but that we can see kind of talent and we can see experiences from all different areas. I used to work for Department of Workforce Services, and so I have a vast, background when it comes to just dealing with people and mentoring young people and just being able to see skills and bring those out in folks, and then you speak on their behalf in other spaces. And so I think those are some practical ways that we can rise together, not gatekeeping, which that's a whole nother topic.
True. Yeah,
for
it is.
another day. But yeah, those are some practical things we can do, is just broaden that our network and connecting each other better,
Oh,
I
I
think.
love that. Thank you so much. Connie, I'm going to give you a different question. How do you intentionally, speaking of the what we were just talking about with networking, how do you intentionally build networks that are, well, build networks and then that are inclusive, not just women like you, but women of different backgrounds and identities and lived experiences? That takes some effort to do that. It's really easy to connect with people like us. Connie, some thoughts?
Well, I think over the years, what I found, just there's several ways, but one of the things that I found is that you all come together on the same principle or purpose. So if you all have the same cause, the same thing, I think that's the beautiful thing, because then you get all these different perspectives of how to fulfill that purpose rather than just kind of this linear way of going about it. So even when I did that group with the retreats and things like that, it was called Disciple Thought Leaders. And we had people of all different situations and backgrounds and all kinds of things, but we all came together on we wanted to be instruments for good. So what skills do we need to do? And because we did that, we were looking for, okay, help train with speaking and podcasting and social media and marketing. And let's get these, particularly moms, but women, these skills and give them a tool belt and do it fast because they don't have a lot of time. So because of that, we were pulling from all kinds of different people and places who knew how to do it effectively and efficiently. And then when you come together on making this thing grow and creating this together, so much of that inclusivity takes care of itself because you appreciate and respect the people that you're working with and what you were able to create together. So it kind of knocks out this sort of, we got to make this happen. And instead, we all focus on the thing that we're growing.
I absolutely love that. In Boulder Way Forward, in the work that, and Melanie, you've been involved in that as well. That's that purpose. I love that because you come together with that purpose. Melanie, I have an interesting question for you. So, what is one misconception about women supporting women that you wish we could just retire, get rid of? So, jump on that one.
I promised you I was going to find a diplomatic way to say this. I have not found it.
Just say
So
it.
I'm just going to say it. There's this trope, and we can go into why this exists. But I hear people say the thing that stops women from rising is other women.
Yeah.
Women are catty, they're competitive with each other, like all of those things that we hear. And that, by and large, has not been my experience in life. There have been crappy people in my life. Some of them have been men, some of them have been women. But I think of those as like, not helpful people. It's not like that woman is representative of all women. And I get tired of hearing it. So I'm
do
going to
too.
perpetuate it. We had a focus group where one of the men in the focus group said that. He said, I see women tear each other down and they're their own worst enemy. And then he gives this example that is the mildest thing I have ever heard and would not even make me blink, whether it happened to me from a man or a woman. And I'm like, I actually don't consider that situation to have been a problem. I'm surprised that you do. And that could have been a woman doing that to a woman, a man doing to a woman, a man doing to a man, or a woman doing to a man. It had nothing to do with gender
Yep, yep.
identity. What just happened and what you're explaining was not a big deal. And so I don't know. When people talk about that, I'm like, I maybe I've just been really good at curating the circle around me, but by and large, women have supported me and
Yeah.
I support women. And
Yeah.
that is what I feel from this community.
I love that. And there's a whole research area of women's negative interactions with each other. And occasionally I'll see that from a few, but it's so occasional.
Yeah.
It's so occasional. Bettina, you wanted to jump in on that one too. So I'll let you talk and then we'll keep moving. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'll be brief. I think one misconception about women is that supporting women means that you oppose or exclude men. And
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, it's not the case. As I mentioned earlier, it's literally 50-50 roughly for the entirety of our lifetime when you're looking at men and women. And we need each other to thrive. We need each other to grow. We need each other to have balanced situations, balanced interactions, you name it. And so thinking that, and this may be more when speaking to men about women's issues and things that we need, but helping them to understand that being for women does not mean that we're against men ever. There are some people, as
It's
Melanie
so
mentioned, who
true.
feel that way, but that is not a broad, that is not broadly factual. So that's one thing that I wish would just kind of go away.
Yeah, I love that. You've probably heard me speak about we lift and we can lift and be lifted ourselves, right? It's not opposing. I love that. Thank you so much. Um, Connie, if a woman steps into a leadership role, and this happens in business, in various settings, but feels isolated or unsupported, and actually all of you have probably dealt with this, what is the first practical step that you would advise her to take to her circle of allies? What should she do?
Oh, there's so many. So I'll just touch on a couple. One is to find common ground. Look around, see somebody or something. Oh, my kids play soccer, your kids play soccer, or whatever it might be. Find common ground. Oh, I went to that same university, blah, blah, blah. Find common ground. And then the second thing is ask. Get curious, ask questions. That is the great connector and the great stabilizer of opening up to people is asking thought-provoking questions and curious questions that you really want to know the answer, and not with this agenda of I've got to network and I've got to find someone to connect with at all. It's authentic connection. You really want to get to know people and you want to get the lay of the land and tell me your experience here. How has that been for you? When you do that, you are never isolated. You are never
Yeah.
alone. And then ask for help. Not like, I can't do this, help me, but more of like, who do you usually go to when you talk to this? Who's done a good job with this in the past?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how this works.
Even quick
What,
little things.
yes, what's the
Just quick.
protocol here? Exactly. And what that tells people is you're not just coming in and just trying to do your own thing. You're asking, how has things been working? What is working for you guys? I would love to know more about those kinds of tell me more. Those are kinds of they're connecting questions and they show you're open, you're vulnerable, and you're ready to learn.
I love that. And Melanie, I wanted to have you, I'm trying not to ask two people the same question, but I'm dying to hear from you on that too. And this cohort development series are just one of those things. I bet the pe women love that instead of feeling isolated to come together. A few thoughts there?
Yeah. Remind me of the original question. I was so caught up in Connie's response, I think I lost track of it.
So if a woman steps into a leadership role or leadership and feels isolated or unsupported,
Yeah.
just what is a practical step that
Okay.
would help her?
Thank you. So I think the first thing is mindset. When you're moving into leadership and moving out of individual contributor, it can become lonely. So expect it because that will happen. You can't be best friends with the people who report to you, and that's something you're not used to when you're stepping into leadership. It can cause problems if you create too close of a bond with one employee and not another employee. So keep that in mind.
That's tough. It's
It,
natural to do
it's
that.
so It's so hard, and you're going to gravitate toward one person or the other, but you can actually create problems for them if there's a perception of favoritism too. Okay, so I'm not going to be diplomatic again. Don't be so pathetic that you need your direct reports to be your best friends.
Oh,
Okay, but there is
it's
human
true.
connection that is required. So you can get that from your peer group at your company. So if you're a director, try to make connections with other directors or above at your company. Go to networking events and make relationships with people who have similar roles at other companies and in other industries. This will help you because sometimes there's something that happens within your company. Maybe you're struggling with an interaction with another leader, and you don't want to talk to somebody else about the company because you don't want to create like a big witch hunt or a drama. Like, you don't want to do that. But can you talk to someone who doesn't work there, who can look at it objectively and say, I'm having this issue. Have you ever run into that before? And they can give you objective advice without coloring any relationship that exists in your company. Make friends outside your company,
I
because
love that.
like I mentioned before, when I had to break from a place I'd been a long time, that was lonely too. It was a lot easier for me later in my career. When I had made relationships outside of the company, it becomes easier to move because that
I
place
love
isn't your everything.
Yeah, I love that. And that's another topic that I've taught in the past is learning how to give and receive feedback, though. Those are positions of vulnerability for some people. And I also wanted to mention something, Bettina, before I go to you, that Connie said, and that is, I was thinking I'm a Gallup coach for strengths coach. And I would guarantee that I don't know if Connie's taken it, but she's a woo. She is a woo. If you know that, and it's so much easier for woos, and I'm not a woo, to go and ask questions and do this. But, all of us are different. And so taking that and pushing ourselves outside our comfort zone sometimes. But I also love the book Quiet. It's based on research. And that book is about leadership and introverts. And we can do things differently. Anyway, I thought I'd put that out there because it's easier for some people to do what Connie was talking about and what you're talking about, Melanie, rather than other people as well. So, but Tina, I'm sure you could add to that, but I'm going to move us along to the next question. So, we've all talked about mentoring and sponsorships and those kinds of things. What are the most overlooked forms of sponsorship that women can actually offer each other?
Okay, yeah, I can totally add to the others, but I won't do that.
Okay,
I'm holding
thank
it
you.
in, Susan. We're gonna have a conversation after.
Okay.
Um, I'm gonna submit three things. There's a lot, but I'll submit three quick things. One is something that people have done for me that I didn't even know about, and I try to do now, and that is name dropping
Mm,
when the person is not in the room. So, almost like what Melanie did, but people are going to you, right? So you're recommending women for different opportunities, for a board, a panel, anything that comes up, you recommend someone, okay? The second thing is to give public credibility, right, for someone's work. So we're doing some of that today. Well, we're talking about what has helped us in the past, who has helped us in the past, giving credit where credit is due. That even includes you, Susan, for giving yourself credit this morning. You're fine to do that. You
very
should do
good.
that.
Okay.
And then the third one I think is creating proximity. Proximity to power, proximity to opportunity, proximity to space. Something that I just recently started doing when, you're in offices like we all are in your positions, you get invited to everything, right? And you
Yep.
can't find space on your calendar to go to everything. But when you do attend something, bring someone with you. And
Yep.
someone who
Yep.
hasn't been invited necessarily, and that just kind of opens them up to new networking opportunities, new spaces. And even if you can't go, ask, can I have someone else attend in my stead? And then you're able to offer those opportunities to other people.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm looking over in some questions that have come in. There's lots of questions. Some of them relate to some questions I'll have in the next couple of minutes, but we will send a follow-up email to everybody that RSVP for this event, and we'll give you links over to the Women's Leadership Institute, the Bolder Way Forward website, and anything else, Bettina, that you'd like us to link to, or if we should put the link to Quiet in there that I mentioned, and other resources as well. And Connie, over to your work as well. And there's lots of great comments about confidence and some of the discussions that we've had, but I'll pull in a couple questions in a minute. But I love that, Bettina. And Melanie, can you share an example that I'm always thinking of? We're talking about networking and collaboration. We all collaborate with each other. But I want to focus on a question that has come up to me before, and that is, what's an example of a time when collaboration across sectors? Like we have a lot of that going in Utah, and a lot of opportunities, whether it's government or community or business, really created real momentum for women by really crossing those sectors. Yeah, give me maybe an example of that.
I
You're
can't say that
thinking.
I can't say I have a great answer for that, Susan. I think I might be too new in my role to have seen those things, but I know that there are a
Well,
lot of
women from the different sectors come together,
yeah.
and I think you provide opportunities. I'm going to answer the question.
Yeah.
You provide opportunities for that cross. I mean, throughout my career, when I've been in spaces with government, I learned so much about that or business and so forth. Anyway, back to you.
Yeah, I think that in my career, the closest thing I could think of happened within the company. And it was customer base with me. So I was a marketer, I was a digital marketer, and my target market was dentists. And I put together a conference for female dentists. And there were female dentists who agreed to be on the speaking roster for me as I was trying to create something new for the women in that community, because I was at an intersection of two very male-dominated fields, which is manufacturing and dentistry. So I was trying to create something new, but I can't say that I'm the right person to answer that question.
That is just fine.
A year from now, I'll probably know the ins and outs of all those collaborations that are happening around me that I just wasn't aware of.
Oh,
I can share
I love that. I'm
with
gonna
that. Oh,
Well, I'm going to actually move.
go ahead.
I'm looking at our time, so I'm going to
Yep.
move to a couple of other questions. And Connie, how do you personally cultivate resilience, especially in the work you do, trying to, be inclusive and leadership can feel, our work can feel kind of slow sometimes and exhausting. Especially you talked about feeling called by God. How do you keep that resilience? How do you teach that resilience to other folks? Well, women specifically.
For sure. So going back to that experience that I shared, it sounds so good on paper when I'm telling people, and then we did this, and then I talked to these three people, and then we did this, and it was a successful event. But there was a lot of gaps in there. And there was like 2, 3, 4 weeks where people were like, yes, I'm on board. I want to be a part of this. I'm so excited. And then crickets for like 3 to 4 weeks. And then you start to self-doubt and you're like, did I get this
that's
wrong?
hard. Yeah.
Yes. So I so encourage a couple of things to consider is one, have that strong purpose, that vision, that strategy that you created. Now the strategy can change and things like that, and the exact vision can change. But once you get that purpose of, I know I'm teaching young adults and specifically women, then the other things can finagle, and it's okay. You can have a little flex with that and give yourself grace. So get that clarity and vision, whatever you got to do, go up into the mountain, eat a whole pan of brownies, whatever it takes, but get that vision, get that purpose, put it on that board, put it on your wall, and remind yourself of it, mantra daily, right? And then the second thing is surround yourself with just 2 or 3 key people. And just like you were to the point that you were saying, that's kind of what I wanted to bring in, is they don't have to even be in line with everything that you were doing. When I talked to those different people, when I was trying to shift the gear, I ended up talking to a man in Scripture Central. I talked to the director of Women's Conference, Jen Johnson, and then I talked to Noelani Wyas, who is a professor at the EXDM department. They're in totally different areas, and yet they gave me the breadcrumbs. They gave me those pieces, and then they're on my team, so they don't have to be involved all the time. And resilience isn't about, oh, I need you all the time, and you're my blanket, right? My emotional support animal. It's more of, you're there for me, and I can pop in, I can text you, I can ask you, and then I'm there for you too. And you build that respect and that connection with each other, and you're there to be a resource to one another. So resilience is really, I'm all about connection if you can't tell, but
Yeah.
it's really building those authentic connections and saying, how can I help you? And it's that Amish proverb, I'll lift thee and thee lift me and we'll ascend together. And if you continue to be like, hey, can I just, get your opinion on this? And hey, I'm happy to weigh in on this really quick. It can be anytime, anywhere, but this resilience is a lot of reassurance. When you can
Yeah.
find people who
Yeah.
could just reassure you. I was with a gal, one of my friends, the DTLs, we were at Aubergine, and we're talking. I'm like, yeah, I've got this life-changing opportunity, whatever. And she pulls out a piece of paper and says, let's go. She starts doing this life coaching right there over the yams. And I'm like, we don't have to take time on this. She took me through it. And right at like third of the way through, I start getting the download and I look at her and then I start getting teary. She starts getting teary. And I'm like, I know it. I know what to do. That resilience comes from those connections and the foundation that's
Yeah.
built from that. And then continuing those to be that for each other.
I love that. And people sometimes call everything, like I have like 1,000 people around the world that call me their mentor, and I like feel a little guilty because I'm not really a mentor. But what you're I mean, I am for some people, but sometimes it's just a coaching moment.
Yes.
And it's a
Yes.
coaching, it's not really a mentor, or it's a sponsorship kind of thing. And so, but those matter, moments matter. Moments, just a moment can change us forever. There's a couple of questions and some different things going on with mentoring. We talked about sponsorship. Bettina, you talked about that. And so there's been, what would you recommend, Bettina, in terms of, I'm trying to combine like four questions into one, but in terms of mentoring and in terms of people being able to find those relationships. Before I throw it to you, though, I'm going to say one thing, and that is if you remember the old book by Sandberg on, oh, what's the name of it? Oh my gosh, I went blank. Lean in, lean in. She has a chapter on don't go up to people and say, "Will you be my mentor? Will you be my mentor? Will you be my mentor?" I don't like that when people do that to me. I just naturally mentor people that are connected with me. Any other advice on mentorships and of course, I think going over to Melanie's programs and stuff, you can naturally get some of those. But what would you offer, Bettina?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there are a number of reasons why you probably don't like that question, right? And it's not just you. But I think it also is the weight or responsibility that one would think of, right? When someone says, "Can you be my mentor?" But what I've
It
learned is
is.
that it is more likely to be the experiences that Connie mentioned. And instead of thinking of mentoring as a set period of time, whether it's weeks or years or whatever, think of it as someone who sees you as someone that they can aspire to, right? And that
Mhm.
they see value in what
Role
you bring.
modeling. Role
Yes. And
modeling.
so mentor is the word I think that we kind of placed on it in society, but it doesn't have to be that heavy. And it really is about that relationship building and connecting. I don't have all the time in the world, right? Because I have a full-time job, I have another full-time job, I have
You
children,
do.
I have a spouse, you have church, you have whatever, fill in the blank, right? You have all of these things. And so making that commitment seems quite difficult. But in a moment when someone sends an email or a text message, or I'm in passing and I'm at an event and someone asks a
I love
question,
that.
and you take time to talk to that person and give them, what's on your heart, that to me is where they're feeling like, oh, Susan's my mentor because I saw her at an event and she gave some great advice. They don't even have to really speak to you one on one necessarily, because what we're
That's
giving, even in this space, I think can be valuable to someone and can change a trajectory in their life. And so I think it is more natural to just be in proximity and allow things to happen as
yeah.
they happen. Because
Yeah.
when you're trying to force any kind of relationship, what happens? It doesn't generally work, right?
Yeah.
One person is working harder than the other, and the person who's not working as hard either doesn't care or maybe getting frustrated. So I
Yeah.
think having those, just being open to being in spaces and really being comfortable. I looked in the chat how some people were talking about not being comfortable, going up to people and introducing themselves and all of those things. You don't have to do that, but the more you push yourself to be in spaces that maybe you're not used to being in, going to events. A lot of events are free if finances are a
Yeah.
barrier. Just go, and you just
Yeah.
never know who you're going to meet, what you're going to hear, what nugget you're going to get.
Yeah.
And so I think if we take maybe that responsibility or that weight off of the word mentorship and understand
I love
what's
it.
the under it, then it'll be an easier connection or easier transition.
I love it. I've pulled some of the things, and I know some of you are responding. Some of you panelists are responding to things in the chat directly to people. But Melanie, I need to come back to you because one of the topics we haven't really addressed yet, that you and I are both pretty blunt about, and that is here's the question. I'll just give you my question. What systems or structures have you seen actually move the needle for women and leadership, for women's advancement leadership? There are structural issues, whether they're in companies, whether they're in the political sphere. Bettina, I'm sure you see that, and they're invisible sometimes to people. They're invisible. So we can't leave this conversation without talking about the bigger work. So what thoughts do you have, Melanie?
There's a story that I tell over and over because I wrote an article on the pay gap for the magazine you and I collaborated on, right, a couple of years ago. I loved that experience and I loved writing about the pay gap. And I found a company who was part of Susan's 100 Companies Championing Women, and it was Health Catalyst, and they had addressed the pay gap. So I called them and asked them what they had done. They had had some training. They read this book called What Works, I think it's called.
I think so.
And as they went through it, they had noticed that there was a pay gap, and also men were getting far more promotions than women were getting. And when I was talking to their chief HR officer, she said, it's not like men are naturally smarter than women or naturally better at these jobs than women are. So why was it so disproportionate that men were getting promoted more? And Susan has lots of research if you want to know why. But Health Catalyst wanted to fix this, even knowing that they might not be able to reach into the brains of every woman in their organization and say, ask for the promotion and negotiate your salary. They wanted to handle it from their end. And so what they did is put together promotion cycles. And the cycles would happen at set times in the year. And everyone, let's say they were hiring for a director, everyone who was a manager under that director position was considered for the promotion, whether they threw their hat in the ring or not. And in short order, Health Catalyst found that the percentage of women in their workforce, I think it was like 35% of their workforce was female or something. It's in the article, so we can fact check me. But whatever it was, say it was 35% of their workforce was women. In short order, 35% of the promotions were going to women as well. And so they handled it without dismantling all the psychology that is happening and centuries of conditioning and all of the things that are happening inside a woman's head. They were like, let's just fix it from our end. Let's not expect women to operate contrary to the cultural construct that they're operating in. Let's just fix it. And I love
I love that.
structural approach.
I love that. And I use the word, in Utah, I've had CEOs come up to me and say, hey, we're hiring women, but they're not staying. And I'm like, describe your culture, describe what's happening. And they describe it, and I'm like, you have a masculine culture. They're like, what? What does that look like? I don't see it. But it takes some work on, I mean, some are easy fixes, like if you're just paying attention, but there needs to be work on and for women too, sometimes we don't see it. We're used to sexism. We're used to these things. If I'm tough enough, let's fit in. But there are ways. Maybe we have another webinar down the road on very specific things to move
Yes.
forward.
And you made me think of one thing. It's so short, but like if you are the woman who says, I never got maternity leave, so I'm not going to worry about the women behind me getting, and nobody ever accommodated
Get
me.
over it.
Nobody ever, like, we should not want things to be as bad for the next generation as they were for us. Should we go back to having root canals without anesthetic? Like, should we go back to arranged marriages? We make progress by making sure that the people who follow us don't have it as bad as we did. I don't want to go to the bathroom in an outhouse, and I want you to have a lactation room.
You're making me laugh so. I am so glad you guys have been blunt, and you guys, I'm trying to change that, but I was raised with a bunch of brothers. Anyway, oh my gosh, it's time to quit. So I'm going to hold you to like 30 seconds each with our last question. And that is, if you could leave women, there might be some men in the room, but think about the women with one message about their power to lead and lift others, what would it be? Bettina, you start us out.
Okay, this is going to be non or unconventional, but what do you expect from me? The one thing that I want to leave women on this call with, as well as men, in my space of politics, and we're in an election season. Feels like we're always in an election season, but we're in an election season. I want to challenge us to do our research and to support women with the power to lead, but support women who are also supporting opportunities for other women. And that's something that I can't say enough. And I say it pretty much every opportunity I get, that it's not good enough to just have a woman in the room. It's not good enough to just be there. I want someone there who is going to do something to look out for the rest of us also. And that means whatever your thoughts are, your beliefs, all of the things, but look for women who are supporting and making opportunities for other women.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Connie. Melanie, I'm going to leave what you just said as your last word. Sorry about that, but we're out of time. Connie, just quick final comment from you.
Yeah, I would say it's already in you. Recognize you already have what you need. Just take the step. I think about when you go into a room that has those automatic lights, they don't turn on until you step into the room. And it's not going to happen until you take the step. And I'll tell you, you'll get it in the doing. So take that deep breath, open your mouth, do the action, take the next step, and you will be shocked at all the resources, people, and good things waiting for you.
I love this conversation so much. I want to thank each of our panelists. I also, each one of you has brought so much to this conversation, and there's still some questions over there. We'll capture the questions. And for the panelists, if you have other resources, send me a note, and we'll send those out as well. Like to thank USU Extension for working with my team to make this event possible. And please look at upcoming events. We'll put that in the follow-up as well, since we're out of time. Thanks again to all of you panelists and everybody that's joined today, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks.
Thank you.